Welcome, welcome, welcome to you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Mr. Phelps Show. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I welcome you all to the Mr. Phelps Show. Glad to have you here for another great episode. Thank you, thank you. Today, I got some fun stored for you. We're going to take a look at Animal Farm by George Orwell. This book is a really interesting book because it has a lot to do about politics, and basically it never outwardly says it's about politics, but as you read it, you'll notice a political system that's going on at the farm that eventually fails in many ways in the end. Maybe not for the rulers, but for the animals living there. So it's a very interesting book because George Orwell wrote it at a time when it wasn't so highly praised like it is today. Keep in mind, this was written in 1946. And that's just around when World War II was completed. Now, George Orwell was not a fan of the Russian government, the Russian communist government, or Russian government at the time, and he wrote this in commentary to their government. And if you know World War II, you know that the Russians were on the side of Great Britain, the United States. So the Russians were very much praised at the time because they had just finished World War II on the winning side. Still love that coffee. In any case, now, after the Second World War and America got into the Cold War, this book kind of found its prominence because America was fighting the Russian government, not on the field, but in many other things, and this book kind of showed that. It kind of came out on the government of Russia finally came out at that time that the Americans were fighting. So in any case, George Orwell wrote it, wasn't too popular at the time, but became popular over time, and now you see this book in several schools across the nation to talk about government. And it's a good book for government. Even if you're not talking about communist government or communism, just totalitarian government, good to look at this and learn about government. So I don't want to give much away about this book because it's good and, you should read it. But it's just very ironic how the start of the book is very similar to the end of the book in terms of government. A group of animals overthrows a human government. They overthrow the farmer at their farm. They kick him out and they run the farm on their own. It's kind of interesting how that happens, and as you notice, George Orwell calls it a fairy story, which I found kind of interesting because, this is his way of saying, hey, it's not really about the political government, it's me using animals in place of people to talk about government. So it kind of gives it like the fairy tale Three Little Pigs sense, if you ask me. But in any case, the animals overthrow the humans on the farm, and then they take over. And the book is basically about how the government evolves as it goes on. And you'll notice that the animals start running it in certain ways. The pigs are the ones who take over and become in charge and become totalitarian governors and totalitarian rulers. And you see how that all pans out. Hello all, I made a PowerPoint here to show how the animal farm is connected to government in many ways. I wasn't too familiar about it at first, but I went and did some research based on what other people did and kind of put it together in a little slideshow for you. So I'll get started here. Here's a government hierarchy, a class system government. And you can see this looks like medieval times. You have the king on top, the peasants on the bottom. And in the middle, you have the lords and the knights. Okay, so the ideal way to read this is that the king is on top. He's the ultimate powerful one. The peasants do the work. The knights also, do some of the work for
protection and whatnot. And then you have the lords who hold higher offices in you know, the government. So you have king on top, lords, knights, and peasants. All right, so now looking at Animal Farm, it can be structured in much the same way. Napoleon's on top. He's the pig in charge. He's the dictator. He has complete control. Okay, he abolishes every debate or anybody who goes against him. He will abolish this. Then you have the pigs. You know, Squealer is involved in that. He's the one who talks. He's kind of like the media guy. He tells the animals what's going on, and you know all the pigs drinking in the farmhouse, and you know later on wearing all the clothes. Like they're kind of the government. You know, they're intelligent. They organize the running of the farm. Then you have the dogs. They're the complete protection for Napoleon and for the government. You know, they're the police and the army, as it says here. And then you have the workers. Those are all the other animals. They provide the labor, which keeps the farm running. Okay, so they do all the work for Napoleon. All right, so here's another way to look at it. You have Napoleon, the pigs, the dogs, the other animals. Okay, and that's the animal farm hierarchy. All right. So this was another way to play around with it. I found what it looked like before the revolution and then after the revolution. Now remember, before the revolution, this was when Mr. Jones was still, you know, in charge of the farm, and this was a class that somebody came up with under Mr. Jones. And of course, this is up for debate. You could debate where the animals would fall into here because we don't get much input into the farm before Mr. Jones. But here's kind of an idea of what it could look like with Boxer, Snowball, first class. You have the sheep and all the other animals kind of below. And then, of course, we see it again where Napoleon's the one on top, first class. You have Napoleon, all the other pigs, Squealer. Second class, you have the dogs, some of the sheep. Obviously, they'd be there because they preach Napoleon's word, where he talks about one of the commandments where it's good to be on all fours and not on twos. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but they speak his word. And then you have third class, all the other animals who do the work. Boxer's kind of an interesting character because he is so loyal to Napoleon and he does all the work on the farm. He's very much praised for doing that. And Napoleon's the one who leaves him high and dry and kills him in the end by shipping him off to get killed. So he's kind of the representative of that animal class. All right, so here's the flag of Animal Farm versus the flag of the Soviet Union. As was mentioned, George Orwell wrote this book in commentary of the Soviet Union. He never mentions the Soviet Union in the book, but you can tell he kind of made commentary on that ideology. So here's the flag of Animal Farm and the flag of the Soviet Union, which it's being compared to. Now, this is an interesting slide, the 7 commandments, okay? We have the before and the after. I thought this was so unique. It shows how the government changes, how it becomes lax from its original system. So before, whatever goes on 2 legs is an enemy. And then it also says whatever goes on 4 legs or has wings is a friend. And that's what I was talking about with the sheeps. Napoleon tells the sheep, all 4's good, 2's bad. It was something along those lines. 4 legs good, and then he changes it to 4 legs good, 2 legs better. So it used to be 2 legs bad, 4 legs good, and then it changed to 4 legs good, 2 legs better. Okay, and the sheep took Napoleon's message and went out and said that. Okay, so that changed. No animals shall wear clothes. No animals shall sleep in a bed. No animals shall drink alcohol. No animal shall kill any other animal. And you see how those changed. No animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets. Those 2 words were added. No animal shall drink alcohol to excess. No animal shall kill any other animal without cause. Okay? So after the pigs violated those commandments, they changed the wording around so that it worked for them and it didn't work for the other animals. Hence the dictatorship. Okay, so Napoleon went and killed other animals to keep order, and that was against the original no animal shall kill any other animal. He was able to change it to no animal shall kill any other animal without cause to protect his ruling and his dictatorship. Then you have all animals are equal, and of course it says here all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. And you see the pigs are obviously more equal than all the other animals. So if that even makes sense, but that's what it's led to believe. All right. And that was interesting. You have the Russian Revolution and you have Animal Farm. So these characters represent different animals of these animals represent different people of the Russian Revolution. I'm not too skilled in all of these, but Tsar Nicholas, I believe he was a ruler who wasn't too popular or didn't have too big of ideologies, and so Mr. Jones was him. Obviously, they were both replaced. You have Old Major, who was the ruler before Napoleon, who represents Karl Marx, the guy who put communism into effect or put animalism into effect. Then you have Leon Trotsky, Snowball. Snowball had different ideology than Napoleon, who followed Joseph Stalin, who believed in the more dictatorship. Okay. Propaganda department is Squealer. He's talking about, all the news about the Animal Farm government. He's kind of the voice of Napoleon. You have KGB, Secret Police, the dogs. They're a protection for Napoleon. Russian Orthodox Church, Moses the Raven. You have vain, selfish Russians, Molly. Skeptical, quiet people, Benjamin, and dedicated, ignorant communist, Boxer. Okay, Boxer, like I said, represents that animal class. He's kind of the one guy there that will do anything to be loyal to Napoleon, but also really work very hard. And he's very ignorant because he ends up dying in the end, and his death is a result of overworking himself to please Napoleon, who shows that he really doesn't even care and is not respectful to him back. All right, so if you look at this a little bit more in depth, Napoleon versus Joseph Stalin, you can get a little deeper. All right, for each character. So if you're studying Russian history, this would be a good book to bring up so you can make comparisons. Napoleon, not a good speaker. Joseph Stalin, not a good speaker. Not as educated as Snowball, not as educated as Trotsky. Okay, they both showed corruption in some way. They both had ambition for power. They used people to help them get what they need. Okay, Napoleon took the dogs away from their mother. He used the dogs. He used Moses and Squealer to control the other animals, where Joseph Stalin used KGB and propagandized. Hopefully I said that right. So Napoleon makes Boxer work. And so you see how they're compared, and you go down. I'm sure you can do this with several other characters, but it's interesting to look at how much they fit the government. And originally, before I said this wasn't so much intentional. Well, it probably was on George Orwell's part. He was a very smart man. So I'm sure it was intentional. But even if it weren't, even if you had this style of government and you're not even comparing it to the Russian government, you can still use this book as a way to talk about government in general. And there's a lot to unpack, and there's a lot more comparisons you could probably compare these characters to. All right. So I found that pretty interesting. All right, so that's it for the PowerPoint. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully that gave you a little more insight into the book.
So, today I'm going to interview Comrade Napoleon, the leader of Animal Farm. I'm a little nervous about that. Why is that? Well, Comrade Napoleon is a totalitarian leader. He's not the most friendliest guy, and I'm going to have him on the set and interview him, but as you know, Mr. Phelps takes his risks. I interview whoever it is, whether they're well liked or not well liked. It's part of the job. It's part of the talk show gig that brings you all this fabulous literature. So we're going to have this interview outside. It's a beautiful day. Don't want to waste any more time inside. So while it's a nice day, it's good to get going with this interview. So I will leave it at that for Animal Farm. It's a good book. You should read it. But just keep in mind it's commentary on a totalitarian government and how government goes wrong and what you can learn from it. So I thank you all for watching. We're going to go outside and have an interview with Comrade Napoleon, the leader of Animal Farm. Thank you. Hello, hello. Hello. Hello all, I welcome you to today's interview with Napoleon, or as they call him, Comrade Napoleon, the pig who is the tyrannical leader or president of Animal Farm. Well, Mr. Napoleon, that's one intimidating staff you got there.
Call me Comrade Napoleon.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So, Comrade Napoleon, what made you want to take over Animal Farm?
Well, as you know, Mr. Phelps, Mr. Jones was a cruel, cruel man. He ran the farm for the interests of himself, not the animals. The idea was to take him out after all the cruelty he brought to us.
I see. Though I must say, you took out Snowball. Wasn't he on your side?
At first, we both wanted to take out Mr. Jones, but then we disagreed on a lot of issues like the windmill and how to educate other animals. As it turned out, my ideas were more well-liked on the farm, and Snowball turned out to be a traitor at the Battle of Cowshed.
So, was Snowball a traitor, or did you just make that up so animals on the farm would believe you and you would be the sole holder of the power? I mean, sounds kind of evil to me. I mean, you did run the guy out of town with the dogs you took away from their mother, and you trained them so that they could be your bodyguard. I mean, come on.
Those dogs needed to be trained. They would not have become smart and powerful if I hadn't trained them. They guarded us in Animal Farm, and if you remember, they were the reason we beat Frederick's men in a battle when he tried to take the farm away from us. If it weren't for those dogs, all would have been lost.
But we must go back to the original question. Was Snowball really a traitor, or did you make that up?
Snowball was a traitor because he did not follow along in Animal Farm's future. He had a future that was never going to work out, which is why he needed to go. If he remained, the farm would have fallen apart. I've never heard from him since, but rumors are he ruined our windmill, stole objects throughout the farm, and worked with Mr. Jones against us. That, my friend, is traitorship at its best.
Now, would you consider yourself a traitor?
Me, a traitor? Are you insane?
Well, hear me out. I mean, you started out against humans with the whole horn and hoof flag, but then you and the pigs sided with Mr. Pilkington, who's a human. That completely contradicts your original outlook. I mean, you started walking on 2 hooves instead of 4, and then you started wearing clothes. Like, what made this change?
Every politician knows that power can change one's views. Look at me and Mr. Pilkington, for example. We started off on the wrong foot, or hoof. But in the end, we had the same goal in mind, to run a prosperous farm. Surely we are allowed to change our views, as power and ruling dictates.
Yet, you lied countless times to the animals on the farm about Snowball, the Commandments, and Boxer. You shipped him to get murdered.
Correction. Squealer lied to the animals about the Commandments. Except he didn't really lie. The Commandments changed over time once we realized the pigs needed to hold more power. As for Boxer, I couldn't tell them the truth. It would hurt their feelings too much, but the poor horse wasn't in a state to live.
No, comrade. He was feeling better before you took him to get slaughtered, and he was your hardest and most loyal worker. You should have a statue of him on your farm.
Well, what's done is done. I couldn't afford another major casualty, and the spare parts from his death left for good money.
That's terrible.
It's simply business, Mr. Phelps. I run a farm, and I need to do that diligently.
So what about your commandments? I mean, why did you not abide by them?
We certainly have abided by the commandments.
Let me think here. No animals should wear clothes. No animals shall drink alcohol. No animals shall kill other animals. I don't know there, Comrade Napoleon. I don't know.
Those were the old commandments brought about by the traitorous Snowball. All the commandments deserve ratification as necessary, like alcohol. It is, no animal shall drink alcohol to excess, and there's no animal shall sleep in beds without sheets. You see, Mr. Phelps, I'm beginning to think you don't like me.
Well, you went and changed these rules without telling the other animals, and then you expected them to believe you when they're clearly unfair rules. I mean, they don't get alcohol, they don't get nice beds, but you and the other pigs do? Where's the fairness in that?
Every rule that has changed has been written down.
But the animals can't read them right, and whenever they question the rules changing, Squealer talked them out of it. You've made them all powerless, incapable, and ignorant.
It's not my fault the animals can't read.
But seriously, Napoleon, come on.
Call me Comrade Napoleon.
I mean, you got rid of Mr. Jones, and then you basically became him in the end, and you renamed the farm Manor Farm, which it was originally renamed before you called it Animal Farm after the rebellion. I mean, how is that fair and equal, Mr. Napoleon, that you want to destroy all the people, but then you become one yourself?
It's Comrade Napoleon.
I'll call you what I feel like calling you.
I mean, I could send my dogs if you don't comply and call me by my rightful name. They would love a snack.
You know what? You've said enough. I think we are done here.
Mr. Phelps, you're forcing me out. How could you?
Just one last question.
Okay, what now?
Did you know you were named after a French emperor, Napoleon, a military leader who commanded the French, helped to win during the French Revolution, and later overthrew the French government to become the leader at the young age of 30?
I'm glad to be named after such an inspiring hero.
But he wasn't necessarily the greatest. I mean, he crowned himself emperor, he invaded and monopolized several other countries, and cost millions of lives by starting countless wars. He made other countries mad, so mad that eventually they sent him away to an island where he stayed under guard for 7 years before his death. You see, Napoleon.
How many times do I have to tell you? It's Comrade Napoleon!
Power isn't everything. It can get you killed in the end.
Are you mocking me?
I most certainly am not mocking you, and I'm warning you, you better watch yourself, or sooner or later you'll be a pot of pork on somebody's dinner table.
Dogs. After this man.
This isn't fair. You will have it coming to you, Mr. Napoleon. I'm off.
Well, at least now with him out of the way, I'll have a new territory to add to Manor Farm. Isn't that great, my precious? Long live Comrade Napoleon!
Beasts of England, beasts of Ireland, beasts of every land and clime, hearken to my joyful tidings of the golden future time. Sooner or late the day is coming, tyrant man shall be overthrown, and the fruitful fields of England shall be trod by beasts alone. Rings shall vanish from our noses, and the harness from our back. Bit and spur shall rust forever, cruel whips no more shall crack. Riches more than mind can picture, wheat and barley, oats and hay. Clover, beans, and mango wurzels shall be ours upon that day. Bright will shine the fields of England, purer shall its waters be. Sweeter yet shall blow its breezes on the day that sets us free. For that day we all must labor, though we die before it break. Cows and horses, geese and turkeys, all must toil for freedom's sake. Beasts of England, beasts of Ireland, beasts of every land and clime, hearken well and spread my tidings of the golden future time. Hail to Animal Farm, where we live animalistic lives free from human treachery. Join today for your fair share of meals and to free yourself from excessive workloads. Remember, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad.
Welcome back, everyone. That was a most interesting interview. I mean, never expected that to happen, but I had to get out of there before I was eaten up by ferocious dogs. I mean, those totalitarian leaders, I mean, they don't put up with anything. In any case, I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Comrade Napoleon. I hope you learned something from it. It's hard for me to enjoy it when I was almost eaten by a bunch of dogs, but at least you can hear what he has to say and make your own judgments about the government on Animal Farm. You know, that was kind of the purpose of the interview. So I thank you for watching and hope you have a good day. Thank you for watching the Mr. Phelps Show. See you next time, and don't forget to check me out on YouTube. Thank you, thank you. The Mr. Phelps Show. Thank you, thank you. Down on Animal Farm there are some really nasty pigs. Down on Animal Farm there are some really nasty pigs. The pigs, they make a crack with whips. Whip, whip. The pigs, they make a crack with whips. Whip, whip. Welcome to the Animal Farm, where you expect the animals to gamble around the pasture, but this ain't no regular farm, not then or hereafter. It was once a regular farm, soon became a disaster. Mr. Jones was exiled. He didn't treat the animals right. He created enmity, brought the revolution to light. At the helm of Old Major, the animals would recite hatred to their farmer who kept them hungry day and night. They rampaged the farm, chased Jones off the site. He capitulated in the fight, only soon to return in a plight at the Battle of Cowshed with all his might. The next battles weren't any easier. Frederick's men brought a fight. Time and time, Animal Farm subsisted, but would soon recover from the smite. When Jones was exiled and left the base, the animals were resentful, had malignity toward the human race. You would think without a farmer it was no longer a place, but believe it or not, they picked up the pace, ran the farm without humans, and wouldn't let them through the gates. They made 7 commandments, maxims that they would have to follow, like whatever goes upon 2 legs is an enemy. I know it's a lot to swallow. No humans could run about the farm, not even wallow, but little did the animals conceive these rules would soon be hollow. The pigs are in charge, that became their niche, but Napoleon and Snowball were dissentients on ideas they pitched, such as education and revolution. What should they keep and ditch? These ideas were never ensconced, they were all but unstitched. Snowball wanted the windmill, but Napoleon said it's a risk, so when the animals liked Snowball more, Napoleon put down his fist, contrived a plan to get rid of Snowball. It was on his list. He sent his fighter dogs, the machinations of an egoist. They chased Snowball out of Animal Farm. He was forever dismissed. Those pigs, they're the smartest of all, plus they've got whips, but they're mean and go unhinged. Dictators who want control with demands they hiss. No apathy for others, just want to get rich. They thought the other animals were ignominious and had no worth. They were only good at knowing how to work. When any animal dared to speak out or had an irk, Squealer would tell a story with its perks, quell any indignations, for his countenance had a pompous smirk. Most were taciturn, so they shirked. They were morose in their state. Napoleon went berserk, and if anyone defied him, the hungry dogs lurked. The cynical know the farm isn't free from torture, because after Jones left, the pigs made it a scorcher. Whatever goes upon two legs is an enemy. It became their corker, until the pigs decided they'll become human porkers. Just like Jones, the pigs became, moved to 2 legs from 4, wore clothes, played cards, made other animals do their chores. Those contemptible boars were kicked out of barn doors, disguised as humans. I know, it's an eyesore. What they once fought for is no longer in store. These tyrants one could only abhor, for Animal Farm was no more. It's now manifested into the manor farm it was once before. Welcome to the Animal Farm.